Good day, beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your urobilinogen in the urine. Your urobilinogen, it represents a group of closely related tetrapyrrole compounds. Again, it is a group of closely related tetrapyrrole compounds. And in the urine, a mixture of substances is actually measured. That is why the term units is the more frequently used one instead of your milligrams per deciliter. Again, we utilize or the unit of measurement for urobilinogen in the urine is units or Ehrlich units instead of milligrams per deciliter. Though, okay, they are somewhat close. Okay, the values are close with each other. Anyway, your urobilinogen is colorless and labile substance. It is colorless, please note, but then once it is oxidized into its urobilin form, once it is oxidized into urobilin, this urobilin will give you a color. Your oxidized form of urobilinogen, which is your urobilin, imparts a yellow-orange color to a normal urine. Your urobilinogen is colorless and labile. Okay, that is why a sample requirement for the determination of urobilinogen should be freshly collected sample. And then your output of urobilinogen is increased in an alkaline urine. Output again of urobilinogen is increased in alkaline urine, and the level of urobilinogen is decreased in an acid urine. Before we move on to urobilinogen, let us take first a look at bilirubin metabolism. Okay, let's start right away with the unconjugated bilirubin that is released in the bloodstream. We will not anymore make a quick rundown of the production of bilirubin from hemoglobin or yes. Okay, and so please read on that. Okay, a questions might be asked about that about bilirubin production. Okay, your bilirubin that is released in the bloodstream is water insoluble and is reversibly bound to albumin, making it unconjugated bilirubin. Please note it has a protein in it. Unconjugated bilirubin, it is unable to pass through the glomerulus. That is why it cannot be seen in the urine. Okay, since it is unable to pass through, it remains in the circulation and yes, it circulates going to the liver. Once unconjugated bilirubin reaches the liver, your hepatocytes will remove the bilirubin from the albumin. The hepatocytes will remove the bilirubin from the albumin and the bilirubin will combine with glucuronic acid to produce conjugated bilirubin or otherwise known as your bilirubin glucuronide or bilirubin diglucuronide. Okay? And this conjugated bilirubin is transported to the bile. Okay? From the liver, from the bile, it will reach the duodenum and will complex with cholesterols, with bile salts, and your phospholipids within the bile. Please note again, all conjugated bilirubin is transported to the bile duct and then to the small intestines, going to the colon accordingly, going to the colon. Intestinal tract, the conjugated bilirubin is deconjugated and reduced by anaerobic bacteria. It is deconjugated into free bilirubin and then it is reduced by anaerobic bacteria to urobilinogen. Please note in the colon, the conjugated bilirubin is deconjugated, making it a free bilirubin, and is reduced by anaerobic bacteria by the normal flora of the colon. It is reduced by anaerobic bacteria into urobilinogen. Okay. With that, 20% of urobilinogen is reabsorbed and it re-enters the liver. For other references, up to 50% For other references, up to 50% of the urobilinogen is reabsorbed and re-enters the liver. Okay? Other than that, your urobilinogen accordingly is reduced to stercobilinogen. It is reduced to stercobilinogen, and the remaining 2 to 5% of urobilinogen remains in the circulation and can be excreted in the urine accordingly. Please note that the majority of remaining urobilinogen is excreted in the feces as colored urobilins or stercobilins. Again, majority of the remaining urobilinogen is excreted in the feces as colored urobilins or stercobilins, which are formed after further removal of hydrogen. And yes, a small amount, 2 to 5% of urobilinogen remains in the circulation and can be excreted in the urine accordingly. Please note your urobilinogen, we do not report it as a negative. Okay, in urine analysis, we report it as normal. Okay, because of this one, a remaining 2 to 5% urobilinogen, which remains in the circulation, can be excreted in the urine accordingly. That is why we report it as normal, not negative. Here, your urobilinogen is colorless and labile substance that is formed via the conversion of bilirubin in the intestines. Please note that the urobilinogen that is reabsorbed in the reabsorbed from the small intestines going to the portal circulation, it re-enters as urobilinogen pa rin. It re-enters the hepatocyte, it re-enters the liver as urobilinogen accordingly. Okay? Again, your urobilinogen is colorless and labile, and it is reabsorbed from the intestines into the blood, and some are excreted by the kidneys, and the remaining recirculates back to the liver. The peak of excretion is at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. During this time, there is what you call as your alkaline tide. Okay, and we said earlier that excretion of urobilinogen is favored or is increased in alkaline pH, and excretion is decreased in acid pH. And at 2 to 4 p.m., the pH of your pH here is somewhat alkaline. There is what you call as alkaline tide during this time. Okay, that is why it favors during this time, it favors the excretion of urobilinogen. The normal value of urobilinogen in the urine is less than 1 Ehrlich unit or 0.5 to 2.5 milligrams per 24 hours. It is less than 1 normal value in the urine is less than 1 Ehrlich unit or 0.5 to 2.5 milligrams per 24 clinical significance or clinical importance or clinical utility of your urobilinogen. Please note that whenever the liver is not able to remove the reabsorbed urobilinogen from the portal circulation, please note your portal circulation, it is a circulation that connects the intestines and the liver. Okay, it connects the intestines and the liver. It delivers nutrient-rich blood from the intestines going to the liver. That is for your portal circulation. Anyway, whenever the liver is not able to remove reabsorb urobilinogen from the portal circulation, there is more or there is increased urobilinogen that is delivered to the kidneys. And yes, please note your urobilinogen is water soluble. If that happens, that there is more urobilinogen that is delivered to the kidneys, it is then filtered out and excreted into the urine, filtered out in the glomerulus and excreted into the urine. So, Increased levels of urobilinogen is seen in hepatocellular damage. Sorry, increased levels of urobilinogen is seen in hepatocellular damage due to viral hepatitis, hepatocellular damage due to drugs, because there are hepatotoxic drugs. Okay, there are drugs that may destroy, that may damage the liver. Hepatocellular damage due to toxic substances. Okay, and so there could be poisons or yeah, okay. And uh, in some cases of cirrhosis, increased levels of urobilinogen is also seen in some cases of cirrhosis accordingly. Okay. Your increased liver disease is also seen in, increased levels of urobilinogen is also seen in hemolytic disorders. Is also seen in hemolytic disorders. And with that, in cases of hemolytic disorders, excess urobilinogen in the urine is seen without an increase without a positive bilirubin. Okay, excess urobilinogen is seen in urine in the absence of bilirubin that is associated with hemolysis. Okay, or yes, this hemolysis can either be uh, hemolysis of your red cells and the hemolysis of your erythrocyte precursors in the bone marrow. Okay, and so hemolysis of the red cells or precursors in the bone marrow, hemolysis in the circulation or in the bone marrow. Okay, uh, in cases of congestive heart failure, liver congestion accordingly prevents effective urobilinogen handling. Thereby, re-excretion of urobilinogen into the bile is impaired. In cases of infection like cholangitis with obstruction, in cases of infection wherein cholangitis is present, cholangitis associated with obstruction, large amounts of urobilinogen are also excreted in the urine together with bilirubin. Please note of this ha, in cases of infection like cholangitis with obstruction, large amount of urobilinogen are excreted in the urine and there is also bilirubin that is excreted. Okay, there is also bilirubin that is excreted. Okay, in contrast to your liver disease, contrast to your hemolytic disorders, wherein there is excess urobilinogen, but then there is a decreased bilirubin, there is an absence of bilirubin. Aside from that, in cases of fever, urobilinogen, sorry, in cases of fever, urinary urobilinogen may be increased when fever is associated with dehydration and concentrated urine. What about a decrease in urinary urobilinogen? Because again, please note, we report it as normal. Okay, what about a decrease? Persistent absence of urinary urobilinogen, persistent absence of urinary urobilinogen, it occurs with a complete obstruction of the common bile duct or complete obstruction of the outflow of bile into the intestines. And yes, aside from that, okay, complete obstruction, carcinoma of the pancreas, this one will cause obstruction also. Carcinoma of the pancreas and ampulla of Vater, this ones will cause obstruction of the bile duct of the outflow of uh, bile, no? Carcinoma of the pancreas as well as carcinoma of the ampulla of Vater. And okay, this one's of course obstruction. And also decrease or persistent absence of urinary urobilinogen is seen in cases of broad spectrum antibiotic therapy. Okay, broad spectrum antibiotic therapy. Okay, and so if this one of course obstructed, there is no if obstruction is if there is obstruction, of course, there is no conjugated bilirubin that is delivered into the intestines. There is no conjugated bilirubin that is delivered into the intestines. Then there is no uh, there is no conjugated bilirubin that will be reduced into free, and there is no free bilirubin that will be converted into urobilinogen. That is in cases of obstruction of the common bile duct, obstruction of the bile outflow. Okay? In cases of broad spectrum antibiotic therapy, please note, you go back. We said earlier that your free bilirubin, okay, you deconjugated. There is already a deconjugated bilirubin. The free bilirubin, okay, is then reduced by your anaerobic bacteria in the colon or your normal flora of the colon. Let's take a look at your broad spectrum antibiotic therapy. Your broad spectrum, please note, broad spectrum, okay, it is not a selective antibiotic drug. It is not a selective. It will not only kill salmonella. It will not only kill clostridium. It will not only kill this type of bacteria. Yun po ang ibig sabihin. That is what we mean by broad spectrum antibiotic therapy. By broad spectrum antibiotic. Okay? You can kill different kinds of bacteria with just uh, one antibiotic. Okay, that is with just one broad spectrum antibiotic. Yun po ang ibig sabihin nun. So, if in cases of broad spectrum antibiotic therapy, what happens? You killed or you are killing the normal flora of your intestines. You are killing the normal flora of your intestines. If it that happens, if your normal flora of the intestines are diminished or they are all dead, okay, or they are all eliminated, then there is no normal flora or there is no bacteria that will reduce the free bilirubin into urobilinogen. Thereby, there is no urobilinogen that will be reabsorbed into the portal circulation. There is no bilirubin that will be converted into stercobilinogen and into urobilin. If there is no reabsorbed urobilinogen, what will happen? There will be no urobilinogen that will be excreted, or yes, that will be excreted into the urine. Okay? And please note, it happens. Okay? And so there are individuals who are, what do you call this? There are individuals who are, what do you call this? Germ conscious. There are individuals who are germ conscious, and that to the point that they already killed their the normal flora present in their intestines. And yes, at times, accordingly, they require transplant of a bacteria. Okay, that is for your clinical significance of your urobilinogen. Other than that, okay, persistent absence or yes, complete obstruction is also seen in biliary atresia. Okay, also biliary atresia. What is biliary atresia? So, what does it mean by atresia, 'di ba? Your atresia here is there is a what they call this uh there is a closed opening. Okay, and so or your atresia there is the in atresia the opening, the normal opening is closed or it is missing or it is blocked. Okay, so in cases of biliary atresia, okay, the outflow of bile is absent or it is closed or it is blocked. Okay, and if that happens, still, okay, urinary, there is decreased urobilinogen that is formed. Okay, and so biliary atresia, of course, this one is seen in infants. Okay, diagnosed in infants. Take a look at the determination for your urobilinogen. You have your Ehrlich's tube test. It utilizes a sample 2-hour postprandial urine. In the reagents utilized, you have your paradimethyl aminobenzaldehyde and sodium acetate. The sodium acetate here is utilized to enhance the reaction. And please note that your Ehrlich's tube test, it's not specific. It's not specific to urobilinogen. It is not specific to your urobilinogen. Okay, it can be used for indicans, sulfonamides, and para-aminosalicylic acid, as well as it can be utilized for porphobilinogen. Okay, the porphobilinogen is seen in cases of porphyrias. Okay, and your procedure, you utilize one part of the reagent plus 10 parts of your urine. And the positive result for this one is a cherry red color accordingly. Please note that qualitative testing for urobilinogen and porphobilinogen may be performed when the reagent testing indicates more than 1 milligram per dl of Ehrlich reacting substance present in the urine. Okay, again, qualitative testing for urobilinogen and porphobilinogen may be performed when the reagent testing indicates more than 1 milligrams per dl of Ehrlich reacting substance that is present in the urine. Okay, that is for your, please note this is for your Ehrlich tube test and the positive result is cherry red. Your hash test. Your hash test here is actually a screening test for urine porphobilinogen of greater than 2 milligrams per dl. Your HISH test actually is based on your inverse Ehrlich reaction to eliminate the problem of urobilinogen activity. Again, your hash test is based on inverse Ehrlich reaction, and it eliminates the problem of urobilinogen activity. Please note that hash test is a test for urine porphobilinogen. Porphobilinogen, this one is seen in cases of porphyrias. Okay, so your reagent utilized is Ehrlich's reagent in 6 molar hydrochloric acid. And the procedure, 2 drops of urine plus 2 ml of the reagent, giving you a red color as the positive result. Positive result is red, cherry red or red color. Okay, interferences may include highly pigmented urine, metal dopa, and indicans. Please note that hash test detects about 20 to 100 milligrams per liter of porphobilinogen. It detects 20 to 100 milligrams per liter of porphobilinogen, and your urobilinogen of about 200 of up to 200 milligrams per liter will not give a positive result. Please note again that in hash test, it eliminates the interferences or eliminates the problem of urobilinogen reactivity. And yes, this test is for porphobilinogen. Your Schwarz-Watson or Watson-Schwarz differentiation test. Okay, please note that the Ehrlich aldehyde reaction and Watson-Schwarz, they are based on solubility differences between urobilinogen and porphobilinogen. And yes, your Watson-Schwarz or Schwarz-Watson test, they are a classic. This is a classic test to differentiate urobilinogen from porphobilinogen based on miscibility or solubility characteristics. Okay, your urobilinogen is extractable in both butanol and chloroform, while porphobilinogen is immiscible in both butanol and chloroform. Okay, again, your urobilinogen is extracted, can be extracted, or yes, extractable, or it can be extracted by chloroform and butanol, while porphobilinogen is not. Okay, porphobilinogen is immiscible in both butanol and chloroform. Other Ehrlich reactive compounds are miscible in butanol but not in chloroform. Your Watson-Schwarz test actually is more sensitive than your Hesch test for porphobilinogen. and may yield a positive result between attacks of acute intermittent porphyria accordingly. That is again for porphobilinogen. Okay, it detects 6 milligrams per liter of porphobilinogen. Again, since it is more sensitive, it detects 6 milligrams per liter of porphobilinogen. But then, okay, we utilize this one to differentiate between your urobilinogen and porphobilinogen. Here's the procedure for your Watson-Schwarz or Schwarz-Watson differentiation test. Anyway, your you need actually here 2.5 ml of urine plus 2.5 ml Ehrlich reagent mix. Okay, and so 2.5 equal amounts of urine and Ehrlich reagent, and then mix. And then after that, you add 5 ml of you add 5 ml of saturated sodium acetate, and then you mix. Make sure that the pH is the pH of your solution is 4 to 5. Okay, and so yes, if it's not if it is not within the range, you acidify, you make it pH 4.4 to 5, 4 to 5. Okay, how are you going to check the pH? You make use of your pH paper to check for the pH. Anyway, after that, you add 5 ml of chloroform. Okay, you add 5 ml of chloroform and you shake vigorously. Shake, shake, shake. You shake vigorously and then you shake vigorously for 1 minute. Please note, shake vigorously for 1 minute and then uh, allow the solution to settle and allow them to separate. Okay, you check the upper face. Okay, please note, you check the upper face. If color is absent, then your screening test, your initial Ehrlich test is confirmed negative. But then, if color is present, what will you do? Okay, if color is present, you separate the upper face. Okay, or yes, you separate the upper face. You pipette the upper face. Okay, you pipette the upper face and then, or you separate the upper face and then add 5 ml butanol to that upper face. Okay, you separate the upper face. Okay, the upper face, if color is present, you separate the upper face. Okay, the upper face, to that upper face that you removed or you separated, you add 5 ml of butanol. To that upper face that you removed, you add 5 ml of butanol. You shake vigorously. Okay, you shake vigorously for 1 minute. You shake vigorously for 1 minute and then allow to separate. Allow the faces to separate. You check the color of the lower layer. You check the color of the lower layer. If pink color is present, then porphobilinogen is present. If pink color is present in the lower layer, it indicates a positive result for the presence of, or it indicates a positive or presence of porphobilinogen. If the upper layer indicates an increase in urobilinogen, I mean, if the upper layer is colored, okay, if there is a color in the upper layer, then it indicates urobilinogen. Pink color in the upper layer indicates increase in urobilinogen concentration. Okay, indicates a urobilinogen concentration accordingly. That is for your Watson-Schwarz differentiation. Still in Schwarz-Watson differentiation test, please note that urobilinogen is extractable or miscible in both chloroform and butanol. But your porphobilinogen, it is not miscible in both. That is why it remains in the urine. It remains in the urine. So first, okay, in this one, okay, you make use of, because, di ba, in the procedure in Schwarz-Watson differentiation test, first is what you call this, 2.5 ml of Ehrlich reagent plus 2.5 ml of urine, and then add 5 ml of sodium acetate, and then make sure that the pH is at 4.5. Okay, then add yes, then add chloroform. Okay, if if you utilize chloroform, if chloroform is utilized as an extracting agent, okay, if chloroform is utilized as an extracting agent, okay, the urine will remain on top while the chloroform will remain at the bottom or at the lower layer. Chloroform is at the lower layer. If, okay, if red color is, or pink or red color is seen at the chloroform at the lower layer and colorless at the upper layer, then urobilinogen is present. If red, okay, at the upper layer and colorless at the bottom layer, then that is porphobilinogen. In case of butanol, okay, butanol will remain at the upper layer. Butanol layer will remain at the upper layer, and at the lower layer you have your urine. Okay, since urobilinogen again is extractable in both butanol and chloroform, your urobilinogen will transfer, okay, will go up into the butanol layer, causing a red color. Okay, since porphobilinogen is not, okay, porphobilinogen is not extracted by both butanol and chloroform, it will remain in the urine layer. Okay, that is for your urobilinogen Schwarz-Watson differentiation test. Your reagent strip method for urobilinogen. First is, let's take a look at your multi-sticks, because it employs Ehrlich's aldehyde reaction, while your chem strip, it employs diazo reaction. Your Ehrlich's aldehyde reaction, which is employed by your multi-sticks, it utilizes para-dimethyl aminobenzaldehyde as the embedded reagent in the pad. And your para-dimethyl amino and benzaldehyde reacts with urobilinogen if present, okay, in an acid environment or in an acid medium to produce a colored product. Okay, or your para-dimethyl aminobenzaldehyde produces a reddish brown color in the presence of urobilinogen in an acid environment. Okay, reddish brown, accordingly, reddish brown color. Okay, please note that again, the color varies from light yellow to shades of red to brown. Okay, and the values ranges from 0.2 to 1 milligram per DL. 0.2 to 1 milligram per DL. Okay, for multi-sticks, okay, it is not specific to urobilinogen. It detects other substances known to react with Ehrlich reagent, including porphobilinogen, indicans, para-aminosalicylic acid metabolites, sulfonamides, procaine, 5-hydroxyindole acetic acid, indole, methyl dopa. Highly pigmented urine will cause a false positive result also. Okay, because it will mask your, what they call this, it will mask your color produced. Okay, and please note that this one, your reagent strip for urobilinogen, is not a reliable method for detection of porphobilinogen. Okay, and false negatives, old samples. Why? Please note labile. Okay, this is a labile. Urobilinogen is labile substance. And yes, it can be converted from urobilinogen to urobilin. Urobilin will not give a positive result for Ehrlich's aldehyde reaction, as well as it will not also give a positive result to diazo reaction. Use of formalin, okay, will also what we call this, yes, it will also cause a false negative reaction. That for your multi-sticks, the reading time is 60 seconds. Multi-sticks, the reading time or you read the results at 60 seconds. So, and then finally, you have your chem strip, which employs your diazo reaction as the principal. And the reagent embedded is diazonium salt or 4-methyl oxybenzene diazonium tetrafluoroborate. Okay, so your urobilinogen reacts with diazonium salt in an acid environment to yield a red diazo dye or to yield a red azo dye. Okay, please note that in chemstrip, the results are read at 10 to 30 seconds and it can detect approximately zero point 0.4 milligrams per dl. Okay, for your diazo reaction, okay, the results are read at 10 to 30 seconds and the test can detect approximately zero point 0.4 milligrams per dl urobilinogen. Okay, and please note your chemstrip or your diazo reaction is specific. It is specific to your urobilinogen. It's specific to your urobilinogen. Interferences, false positives that will be caused by your highly pigmented urine uh, because of course they will mask your color produced. Okay, red color as such. False negatives caused by old samples. Okay, because again, please note your urobilinogen is labile. It can be lost or it can be converted into urobilin. And urobilin will not give a positive test for chemstrip method for urobilinogen. Formalin and increased nitrite, accordingly, will cause false negatives. Please note, yes, for chemstrip, it can read as low as zero point 0.4 milligrams per dl. And again, it is specific to urobilinogen. Fresh samples are utilized because urobilinogen is labile and it forms non-reactive urobilin in acidic urine. Your urobilin will not give a positive test kasi it will not produce a red azo dye, okay, in chemstrip. And bilirubin in blood does not give or does not affect the test. Okay? And please note, quantitative tests for urobilinogen in urine are seldom performed. Okay, and so but then in case of quantitation, you can make use of 2-hour tests. Okay, that is collected 2-hour urine that is collected from 2 to 4 p.m. after lunch. Okay, this period or this 2 to 4 p.m. coincides with heightened excretion of urobilinogen. And yes, finally, we're almost done with this. Okay, urobilinogen at 60 seconds. This is for your sample. Okay, and so it is reported as normal, not negative. And then 1 plus, 2 plus, or the plus system for this one. Okay, 60 seconds for multi-sticks. Okay, and chemstrip, 30 accordingly. Let's take a look at a comparison of your bilirubin or urine bilirubin and urine urobilinogen. In a normal individual, please note that there is no bilirubin. There is no urine bilirubin. While in a normal individual, urine urobilinogen is normally present. It is normally present. Okay? In bile duct obstruction or obstruction of the bile flow, okay, in obstruction of the bile flow, or this is post-hepatic jaundice, urine bilirubin is increased. Urine bilirubin is increased, causing a dark urine, causing a dark urine accordingly. In in case of urobilinogen, normal levels. Okay, there is normal or decreased. Please note, normal or decreased levels of urobilinogen. Okay, in case of obstruction, okay, posthepatic jaundice is usually caused by bile duct obstruction. Please note. Okay, so posthepatic jaundice, urine urobilinogen is decreased or normal. Decreased or normal. And then for your what do you call this? Hemolysis. Okay, or sige, hemolytic anemias. Okay, that is prehepatic jaundice. Prehepatic jaundice caused by your hemolytic diseases or hemolytic anemias or hemolysis. Urine bilirubin is negative or urine bilirubin is absent. While urine urobilinogen is increased. It is increased. Accordingly, it is increased. Okay, and then hepatic, like liver damage, hepatitis. Okay, as such, liver damage, hepatitis. Please note that urine bilirubin is increased accordingly. It is increased early. Okay, increased early for your urine bilirubin. In case of liver diseases, liver damage, hepatitis, as such, urine bilirubin is early increased, while urine urobilinogen is decreased early, okay, and increased late. Urine urobilinogen is increased late accordingly. Okay, that is for your hepatic, post-hepatic, and whatsoever. But then, let's add here. Let's add your fecal color. Let's add your fecal color. Okay, normally you have a dark color, dark urine, ay dark fecal color feces. Okay, in case of bile duct obstruction, post-hepatic jaundice, okay, it is pale. The feces is pale. In case of prehepatic jaundice or hemolysis, hemolytic anemias, the stool color is dark. The stool color is dark. In case of hepatic jaundice or liver damage, hepatitis, or diseases of the liver, okay, the in the early portions of the disease, early stages of the disease, the stool color is pale. The stool color is pale. In cholestasis, the stool color is pale. And in late hepatitis, the stool color is dark. Okay. In early hepatitis, okay, the stool color is pale. And in late hepatitis, the stool color is dark. Okay. That is for your urobilinogen and urine bilirubin. Thank you so much. This has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, love often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. And as you move forward, may you always choose curiosity over fear, kindness over convenience, and growth over comfort. And yes, you celebrate your small victories, you honor your quiet moments, and trust that every step, no matter how uncertain, shapes the story you are meant to tell. The world is wide, your time is precious, and your journey is uniquely yours. So go make it extraordinary. Thank you. Thank you so much, and see you around.